Hey there, this is Phil Parsons, voice of Kenny the Ripper Ackerman, and you're watching Voice of the Heroes.
What's good, everybody? It's the one and only one, Fleeboy Jetson, and you're listening to the number one anime podcast in the world, Voice of the Heroes. And if you're tuning in for the first time, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, click that notification bell so you can be notified for upcoming exclusive interviews and discussions on your favorite heroes and villains from across the multiverse. And today we have a very special guest. He is the voice of the mutant Bishop from the new upcoming animated series X-Men 97 on Disney Plus. Let's welcome Mr. Issac Robinson-Smith. How you doing today, sir?
I'm great. Wow, what an intro. Thanks for having me. That's awesome.
Man, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
So how's your day going, man?
It's good. This is the main part of it. So I kind of cleared the rest of the schedule and was able to come into this all relaxed and ready to talk. And yeah, pretty relaxed day. Getting ready for the premiere of the show, pretty much. And other
Definitely.
work that I'm doing. Stuff I can't talk about yet, but like just other lots of work, which is good.
Hey, that's
Always
good. Work is a good
Yeah.
thing when there's lots of
Yeah.
work. You
Yeah.
feel me? Let's talk about some of the work that you got going on this month. Tell us a little bit about your character Bishop from the animated series X-Men 97.
So it's crazy because I didn't realize that when I got the role, it was like 2.5 years ago that I got this thing. So I didn't know
Ooh.
really what it was. I didn't know what it was going to lead to. And I was familiar with, I mean, I loved X-Men. I love X-Men. And I was familiar with Bishop, but I didn't really know much of the character yet. And I didn't know, how he would play a role in this new show. And I can't say too much because it hasn't come out yet. But I will say that just really excited about him because he's somebody that represents strength and perseverance to me. I mean, just the look of him, kind of his attitude, his relationship with life, his relationship with other people. It's really interesting because he's someone that doesn't really take. He's kind of his own man. He takes his own opinion into consideration most of the time, and he goes for what he wants. And but he also has a side where he looks out for the good of everybody else, which I really admire about him. Like there's this tough edge because his power, right? He absorbs things and he shoots them back with exactly the same force, which I think is cool, kind of on a philosophical level and also from a character level. But he's got the sense about him that kind of unites people in this way that I think is really unique. And you're going to see more of that in the show, which I'm really stoked for. So
Yeah, you ain't the
yeah,
only one, man. Everybody's
yeah,
been waiting for this since the 90s,
yeah.
but
I know.
they gave Bishop more of a modern look than his 90s
Yeah.
look. And also, the original voice actor, Philip Akin, was, Lucas Bishop in the
Yes.
early animated Marvel Universe animated series. I'm curious to know what kind of take did you give Bishop with your voice, and did you carry anything over from Philip?
Well, I studied him. I studied the performance. Didn't give. I wanted to give it some kind of my own flavor too, because that's what they wanted for the show. I think was, they wanted to when they had the audition, they were kind of gave a basic like feel of what the character was going to be, and of course they had the reference of Philip's performance from before. So I kind of took his I don't know what to call it. There's this essence about Bishop. I think it's kind of a Clint Eastwood-ish sort of vibe that he's giving with his character performance, which is what I got from Philip's performance also. But kind of this tough, like we got to get this done, kind of like the alternative leader, one of the alternative leaders of the group, I think. So I took a lot of the leadership characteristics that I got from Philip's performance and brought it into my own. But definitely wanted to give it my own spin. And I honestly am excited to see it all come together because, as voice actors, a lot of times, especially now, we record by ourselves. So I haven't actually recorded a lot with the rest of the cast. I haven't I haven't actually met some of them yet because we've been separate, but it's all seeing the trailer was the first time I was like, "Oh, I get it now. This is how it's all coming together." But yeah, that's about what I can say right now before we see everything all come out.
Yeah, definitely. Now, with releases of Marvel series or a big anime series or
Yeah.
cartoons, come your own line of Funko Pops. How
Yes.
excited are you to get your very own Funko Pop? And
That
hey,
was
I know you say you don't know most of the cast, but some of these conventions that's going to be coming up, pretty sure you're
right.
going to meet some. So let's talk about the
Yeah.
Funko Pop.
That was I feel like that was a I've made it moment. Not like I'm done working or like I'm not gonna rest on my laurels or anything, but like when I saw that was because that came out late last year, like around October, November. That's when the toys and merchandise started to drop because that's I think when the original show release was supposed to be. That's kind of what I was reading because I don't know. We don't know when it's going to come out until they tell us. But when I saw that, and when I bought one, I have one in my place right now. And
That's
when I
so
held it, I was like,
cool, man.
"This is." I know. I was like, "This is incredible." I can't believe I'm looking. I've never had that before. I've never had like a physical version of a character I played before. So they got the Funko Pop. And he has a really cool action figure from Hasbro Pulse that came out. They premiered it at Comic-Con last year, like in a display, and then they actually came out for purchase later last year. So that was really cool.
Oh, I gotta see that. I didn't
Yeah.
check that one out.
Yeah, they have
Now,
a whole line. Everybody on the team. It's great.
oh, I can't wait. You don't know how stoked I am about this new series. But let's
Yeah.
go back to the original. Was you a fan of the original material?
I was a fan of the original material, and I'm actually working my way through it again. Thankfully, they have it
Me too.
available.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I got to catch up. But yeah, there was something unique about the idea of. I mean, maybe the idea is not unique, but the way they did it was really cool. I think the lessons and the ways that they were teaching kids such adult themes in a show, I haven't really seen that before. I mean, like, I feel like X-Men, Batman the Animated Series, you know, those couple of shows and other shows like that, as kids we were so lucky to have shows that taught us adult themes and how to deal with relationships, how to deal with loss, how to deal with being different, how to deal with your own unique individuality amongst a bigger group of people. I mean, that philosophy, I mean, that's been carried over since the comic book in the 60s, and they did such a beautiful job doing it now. So yes, suffice it to say, I'm a huge fan, and I love that they brought it back in a way that feels cohesive with the story. Obviously, it's staying with, you know, it's starting right when the old one ended. But the animation, the feel, the reverence they have for the original material, I mean, everybody's taking such incredible care with this. It just made me feel like it. When I watched the trailer, I had the feeling of being, you know, 8 with cereal on the floor watching the show. So I really enjoy it, you know, watching Saturday morning cartoons. I'm like, wow, this is going to be amazing when it's all out there.
Speaking of Saturday morning cartoons, I heard that one of your favorites was Spider-Man.
100%.
Is that your favorite Marvel character in general, or do you have another preference?
Spiritually, yes, Spider-Man's my favorite because when I was a kid, when I was 12 when the 2002 movie came out, Tobey Maguire original Spider-Man, and my parents were splitting up at the time, getting divorced, and that was a movie that kind of, it saved me. Like, that world saved my grief and my sadness that I was going through. It brought me to a whole other place. I hadn't explored Marvel comics really at all. But when I saw Spider-Man, the way that he dealt with his problems, the fact that, you know, Stanley had this great quote where he said, once you put on the mask, it can be anybody underneath there. So I was like, I feel like I could be him. I could attribute what he has, the kind of heroism that he has, the kind of bravery that he has. And there was so much wrapped up into that moment of my life that, you know, personally became a huge favorite of mine. But then along with that, you know, Bishop notwithstanding, obviously, another one that's huge for me is I also am the voice of Black Panther for Disney parks. So anytime you go see, like, go to the parks at Disneyland or Disney California Adventures, Avengers Campus, or the one in Paris, or on the cruise ships, I'm privileged enough to be the Chadwick Boseman sound-alike for the character. So I've gotten to connect with Black Panther in a way I never expected. So all these really cool people. Yeah, and that's a whole other story, but that's been an amazing gift as well. So those three, you know, Bishop, Black Panther, Spider-Man, and then of course Miles had to get a shout out because, you know, Spider-Verse is like the coolest animated movie ever right now. But yeah, those are the ones.
So look, check it out. Let's do this right now. I'm gonna give you a little multiple choice.
Okay.
If you had the choice, they called you right now and said, listen, we're launching a Black Panther series, a Miles Morales series.
Don't do this to me.
What was the other one? Miles Morales, Black Panther, and
regular Spider-Man and Bishop, or
a Bishop. Let's just say Bishop spinoff.
Okay, yeah.
Which one would you give the green light for? Which one would you say yes to out of all of those?
That's a really hard choice. Oh man, I didn't realize this would be this difficult in this interview. I think I might have to go with probably the Spider-Man world, just because of how I feel about him on a deep level. But it's so tough. It's like, you know, I'm so connected with all of them. But yeah.
That's dope.
Just barely my choice.
I'm not even mad at you because I'm a huge Spider-Man fan myself. Yeah. You can't really see, but I have nothing but Miles stuff. I think Miles Morales, even the animated stuff, I believe those movies are better than some of the live actions.
Yeah,
Like
they're so good.
yeah, I really enjoy those. But let's move along. Speaking of that and your earlier days, what
Yeah.
inspired you to be an actor, and what was you doing before acting? Did you have any other dreams or pursuits?
I didn't. It's a really interesting thing because when I was a kid, I was extremely and still am extremely lucky to have a mom that was in the arts and in theater since I was little. So I never really had any other wants once I figured out that theater was a thing I could do. And I was kind of surrounded by it. Like my mom took me to shows and she had musical theater vinyls all over the house. I know that Lin-Manuel Miranda talks about how that's like the environment he grew up in, that huge theater thing. So I was a big theater kid and never really had another viewpoint. But I do also know that at the same time, I was doing voices with my brother a lot. Like we watched Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Star Wars, and we would do all these things where we'd play with voices together and we'd make up stories together. And I just thought it was kind of like a hobby when I was little, but I also was doing theater in high school and everything. And then during one break, I think lunch, I was talking to my friends and I was like, I can do voice impression. Like, I didn't even know why I was like, I can impersonate some voices from SpongeBob, I think, or something like that. And I did some voices and they laughed. And I was like, oh, this is a much more powerful thing than I anticipated. I didn't realize that it had an effect on people. And then I watched an interview with the Simpsons cast. And once I saw that, I was like, oh man, I have to do that for the rest of my life. So it was pretty much from the beginning of college forward. I didn't look back. I wanted to do voiceover and that was it. But I still don't have a plan B. So if this is all I got. I never wanted to do anything else. I can't do anything else, but I love it more than anything. So
Hey man, you're on a good track, and I think the gates are just opening for you, and you got much more to come. And I hope we can get you back here to talk about future projects. But what do you prefer more when it comes to voice acting? The video games or the animation stuff?
My gut says animation, just because of the amounts of characters types that I have played and that's just, where my love of voiceover started was animation. But I will say there's a real beauty in video game voiceover, and I love doing it, and I love how challenging it is, because video game voiceover is a lot like cinematic on-camera acting. It's very grounded, it's very real, it's very right there in the moment, and that's that kind of nuance that you have to do while not having any cameras or anything on your face, or maybe you're being performance captured, or motion capture, but for the most part, it's a very inside performance, and that's really difficult. And so I've had to like go way far down on myself to get some of the performances that I need to do some of these video game performances. On the flip side of that, equally as challenging sometimes is to have a much bigger version of myself, or versions of myself that I wasn't aware I could do. Like one job I have is I'm a utility player for the show Hamster and Gretel for Disney, and I've done probably 20, 25 episodes of that show, and I've done tons of characters in each of them, but that challenges me to like choose something and just go with it and go with my instinct and do that. And that's something that I've had to develop over time. Going with my gut is not something I've been used to growing up because it scared me. But now with the job that I have to, and it's really still terrifying sometimes, but ultimately really rewarding. So all going back, animation is the big one, but I love video games too. And I love that I get to work in that world.
Speaking of video games, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth just released.
Yeah,
you're in there. Let's talk about your character, man. I know there's a lot of FF7 fans that's excited for this.
Yes. So Garth is a character that I wasn't aware of when I was going into the role. I didn't know what I was getting called for. I mean, it's kind of funny with these things. I got the email about that I got in cast, and it was an alternate title because they like to, give a false title for things if it's a bigger project they don't want it getting out there. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll go in for this thing. I don't know what this character is. And I got in and I just saw him in the rendering, kind of a weird, like, pre-visualization of the whole cutscene that they had him in. And I just looked at it, heard the Japanese voice, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll do something like that. And this is the guy that came out, and I don't know where it came from, but surprise, that whole thing. It was super fun.
That's dope.
Yeah. So, and what's great is that's such a huge team of people that put such a massive game together. Me coming in thinking that I'll be a piece of this. It's not really a huge deal, but I love being part of it. But then coming in and feeling like I'm such an integral part of the story, even if it's, this much of it, is so cool. And that's the whole Final Fantasy team. Like, they all treat everybody like you're important, you have something to give, your piece of the story is integral to this whole saga that we're telling. No matter where you are, what your role is, or what you're doing, even if you're not sure, it's going to be great. So it's just such a fun place to be. And the director, Kirk Thornton, is so cool. He's so nice. And he's got his own plethora of work that he's done for years and years. So working with a veteran like that is also really neat. But yeah, Garth is an example of a guy that I am not. I'm not that guy. I'll never be that guy. I don't feel like him, but I get to do it. And that's one of the things I love about acting, is to do these things that are not me, but somewhere in there, I understand what that guy is. And so I get to explore that.
Definitely. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth out now. Go get that if you haven't. It's a great game. All right. Now, are there any ongoing animated series or anime series ongoing or upcoming that you would like to be a part of? Or have you dabbed in the anime side of things?
I have, yeah. I did some episodes of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stone Ocean Part 3 on Netflix. I was Donatello Versus in that. I did Tokimune in an anime movie called Mabaroshi, which is on Netflix. And I was Papa Legba in Akuma-kun on Netflix.
Okay.
So I've done some of that. But the ones that there's some great ones there's one, Blue Eye Samurai, I keep hearing is like just the greatest. I haven't watched it, but everybody's talking about it. And like,
it's really good. I've seen it.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I could be part of that team, that'd be really neat.
Yeah. Season 2 is in the works right now.
Yeah. I mean, and there's other stuff that's like, it's interesting. The anime crowd is not a place that I am super familiar with. Like, I've done it, but I would love to meet more people. I would love to. I mean, one person that I love, one of my really good friends, Ryan Colt Levy, the voice of Chainsaw Man, is so, he's kind of giving me an insight into that world and what it's like. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I want to know more. But yeah, Blue Eye Samurai is an upcoming series, or upcoming season that I love to be part of. And just anything else. I just got put on another project that I can't reveal here, but seems pretty cool, that will be coming out maybe in the next few months. So yeah, it's a world that I'm really excited to be more part of, because it's so much fun to do. I do like the dubbing stuff. So.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to see it. Whatever it is, I know something is cooking up. All right. Are there any going back to the Marvel side of things, right? You spoke about Spider-Man being one of your favorite heroes. Who do you think has the better role gallery? Excuse me, Spider-Man or Batman?
Good question. I gotta go with Spider-Man again, because he's my favorite. But I mean, the Rogues Gallery is so great in Batman. And it's the all of those things. I mean, we talked about Batman the Animated Series earlier, and just how iconic all that stuff is. I do, though, on a personal level, I do really identify with some of the things and some of the intricate parts of the villains in the Spider-Man world that are just so interesting to learn about. Like, Doc Ock is my favorite villain, because you saw him as a good person. You saw him as somebody that had something to offer, and just the like disintegration of who he was to become Dr. Octopus at the end is so interesting to me. It's not exactly the same kind of character, but it's sort of similar in my mind to sort of like Walter White in Breaking Bad, where it's someone that has good intention and then ultimately becomes a villain because he's trying to do something. I mean, that's a lot of arcs for these characters, but I grew up reading and watching and learning about the Spider-Man ones, and I was like, oh, these are just people that just had bad stuff happen, or were misunderstood, or like got turned darkly at one point or another, and I just really, really like that. So for me,
that's one of the things that made Spider-Man 2 one of the best movies of all time.
Yes, I agree.
So I can agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Now, are there any upcoming projects that you can talk about, or upcoming conventions that you'll be attending?
I do have upcoming projects, and I can't talk about them yet. They're very big on no reveals until they're produced. So unfortunately, I can't even give you a preview of anything. But there is something that's releasing in like a few days. I think I'll be able to talk about it. So I'll put it on my Instagram and everything. I usually talk about my work there. And then conventions, not anything as of yet, but that's beginning. I've actually never done something like that before. I've gone to, like, a couple of things, but nothing of like a Comic-Con or WonderCon or anything like that. But there are things in the works, so I will be appearing at certain places, but I can't give you details because I actually don't know them. But they will be happening. Yeah.
All right. One more thing, right? Before we go into the one has to go. Are
Yes.
there any lines from any characters that resonate with you in real life that you have said, like something that was like kind of deep, maybe from Final Fantasy or from Bishop, or maybe a
Wow.
character that you've done before, where you said the line and you was like, that's actually pretty deep.
Yeah. No, that's really good. A really good question. Um, oh man, I'm trying to remember exactly the words. But it's a Black Panther line actually from the movie. Where he says something like, and I'm gonna get this wrong, but it's something like, we must find a way where we can all stand together as one single tribe. And that hit for me. I was like, that's it. That's the answer right there. We have to find a way to stand together as one thing. And also another line, also from him, maybe even more deep. When I was doing the role and I was working on the voice with the vocal coach and with the accent coach, the line that really got it for me was when he says, when he's gonna fight Killmonger again for the second time in the end of the movie, and he says, "Look at me, I never yielded, and as you can see, I'm not dead." And the accent coach that was working with me said, you have to understand that that line isn't just T'Challa standing up for his, right as king, but it's also Chadwick Boseman looking at the world and saying, "Look at me, I never yielded, and as you can see, I'm not dead." Knowing that he was going through cancer and knowing that he was battling and making these incredible movies and these incredible characters and still standing up to fight. Like everything about leadership and what it means to be, stand on your ground, stand on your own. The definition of not giving up, like so many things about him just came through in that line. So that will resonate for a really, really long time with me, I think.
All right. Also, I kind of left this one out, but I think this is very important to ask you, right? Tell us something that the world might not know about you, like some hobby you might have, like something like people will be like, hey, like that's cool. I do that too. Like me, I collect Funkos. That's why I asked you about your Funko, because people might not know, but man, I have hundreds of them upstairs. So what's something that the world might not know about you?
I'm a piano player also. I'm playing piano for about 15 years. And I love it. I'm a singer also. I've been a singer since I was a kid. So that whole side of my life is still very active. And as far as collecting goes, just since you brought it up, I am a comic collector. I collect and grade a lot of my comics. Try to get them the signature series and all that. And I also love vinyl. I love collecting vinyl music, and framing it and making it look nice, and just that whole music is a big part of my life. So those two things. Yeah.
All right, now this is the end of the segment. One has to go. Thank you so much for tuning in. Also, let people know where they can find you at.
Yeah, so I'm IRS Voices on Instagram and on X, and I'm Issac Robinson-Smith on Facebook. And you can find my website is irsvoices.com. So Issac Robinson-Smith, irsvoices.com. And I'm there. You can hit me up whenever.
All right, bet. Let's get into it. One has to go. Super Mario or Sonic?
Oh, Sonic.
Xbox or PlayStation?
Xbox.
Drake or J. Cole?
Oh, J. Cole.
Marvel or DC?
DC. Man.
Avengers or the Justice League?
Justice League.
McDonald's or Burger King?
Burger King.
One Piece or Dragon Ball?
Oh, Dragon Ball. I hate it.
And remember, heroes, remember X-Men 97, 2 episodes will premiere this, I believe March 20th, right?
Yes,
on Disney Plus. So make sure y'all check that out. Mr. Issac Robinson-Smith, thank you so much for tuning in. This was
Thank you, sir.
Voice of the Heroes podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and catch us on Spotify and YouTube. See y'all later, man. Y'all have a great one.
Sing it with me, pretty Cali, pretty Cali.